Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Mugshot. All the Devils are here, out June 20th on Pure Noise Records. The album has 12 tracks, 26 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American metalcore band. What I can tell you guys about the design of this record is that obviously the album feels very concise. 12 songs, 26 minutes is a short record in terms of the length. Now, the experience that the album offers is very dynamic and very fluid considering that overall length, which actually makes the record feel a little bit longer, gives a lot more playability, and definitely gives a lot more room for these songs to be able to breathe, to be able to grow, to have a little bit of their own existence within this overall design, within this overall record. So it's an album that has all the right attributes in order to emphasize all of the strong points of the individual songs, and then obviously of the record itself. Also, when you consider the heaviness of the album, keeping the record short plays well into that. It doesn't allow the album to overburden the listener. It doesn't allow the album to become repetitive or to feel like you've been there before. So all of these different nuances that this album offers from a design and overall construction standpoint definitely give this record a lot more playability, definitely give this record a lot more quality. Now, once you get into the sound of this album, I know they are a metalcore band, but I honestly feel like this record is more of a hardcore sounding album than a metalcore sounding record. There's still metalcore elements in the sound, there's also some deathcore elements within the sound, but I feel listening to this record a lot more of that hardcore experience coming to the surface, song in and song out. You see a lot of it in the song designs and in the song structures, in the overall length of the songs, in the style of the songs, and obviously in the sound within the songs. The metalcore and deathcore influences on this record allow the tracks to have a little bit more texture and allow the songs to be a little bit richer, and also plays into that ability to not create a record that becomes repetitive or predictable. So this makes the sound on this album stay cohesive, stay compact, but still have enough fluidity, still have enough changes that the album always moves, not only forward, but up and down and side to side. It's a record with a sound that's alive. Now, there's consistencies in that sound. For example, if you look at the guitar sound, the tonality of the guitars, or if you look at the drum sound or the impacts of the bass, they stay pretty consistent throughout the whole record. There's not a lot of deviations from the beaten path. Is how you approach it and how you mix it, how you mix the variables that allows the songs to have independency from one another and have their own unique characteristics. And I think this is a guitar album. There's a lot of emphasis on the guitars, on the heaviness of the guitars, but also on the grooviness of the guitars, and how many ebbs and flows and how many changes these guitars can offer to each and every single song while still keeping the spinal cord of the record intact. Guitar sound on this album is definitely one of the highlights of the record. Like I said, it's a very guitar-centric record, and it's an album that really emphasizes the quality of the sound and all the little nuances that exist within a hardcore-sounding album. When you get into the drums, I felt like the drums could have been a little bit heavier. Not necessarily more in the forefront as far as the overall mix is concerned, but I felt at times that the drums in certain songs, in certain key moments, could have had a little bit more emphasis to them. They could have had some more substance, they could have had some more depth. Overall, it's not that I don't like the drum sound on this record. I think it's consistent with the idea, it's consistent with the influences on the album, but I honestly felt like there were moments within the record where the drum sound itself could have had a little bit more power, could have filled in the track a little bit better, and I think this would make the drums a little bit more dynamic overall, matching perhaps a little bit more of the life that we see throughout the guitar sound. The bass on the album is really interesting because it pops quite a bit throughout, but not in a consistent way. So this also allows for that bass to create signature moments within songs, to really allow those tracks to have a little bit more of a different exposure, for those tracks to have a little bit more of a different overall vibe to them. And I think this is an important element because it also gives some grooviness to the style of songs. It also gives some grooviness to the record, and it definitely adds a nice little twist to how heavy overall this album is. Once you get into the vocals, the vocal performance all around has a lot of aggression, adds a lot of aggression on this album. There are nuances in the vocal performance. It's not like there's a one-size-fits-all approach from beginning to end. There are nuances in the overall vocal approach, but they stay very consistent, and they stay within their parameters. But I like what they offer. I like what they give. The right intensity, the right aggression, the right push, and really blend it in perfectly in the overall sound. So the mix as far as the vocals are concerned, perfect to the overall experience of the record, perfect in a way that adds to the texture of the overall sound of the album. And I think that is a great element to have on an album that is an absolute heavy slab of meat. This album slaps. It checks a lot of boxes. If you're a fan of hardcore, if you're a fan of metalcore, if you're a fan of deathcore, I think all those three are going to find a home with this record. But I honestly felt more of a hardcore vibe coming out of this album, and that is not a bad thing. That is a great thing. And I honestly felt like this album really cements how good this band is on one hand and how heavy they are on the other. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Shame. Shame is definitely a more hardcore style track in terms of the riff, the sound, the drive that it has. It's also quite groovy as far as the guitars are concerned. The vocals add a ton of intensity, a ton of aggression. It has a massive heavy breakdown with some gnarly vocals on that breakdown. And then it opens up the floor afterwards to this more slam dance style approach. So I really like the dynamic and all the twists and turns that this song takes, both musically and vocally. Such a gnarly track all around. Baptized in Concrete is another great song. This is a little bit more heavy, a more heavy, consistently heavy song with still some guitar bounce to it. I don't want to call it grooviness, there's just some bounce to it. The vocals intertwine perfectly with the sound, really creating this nice combination of thickness, sonically and vocally together as one. And I love the way the vocals shift. When the song becomes heavier, the vocals go down a notch. They become deeper. They also become heavier. When the song gains a little bit more momentum, the vocals also change and add themselves to that momentum of the track. So it's a song that both musically and vocally is in perfect harmony with one another. It's also a track that has a great bass line, almost like a mini bridge, if you will. And that showcases the quality of the bass, the impact of the bass, not just in this song, but the impact of the bass that if you dive really deep into the record, you're going to find it throughout the album. Last but definitely not least, All the Devils Are Here. This track kills on the guitars. What a killer guitar sounding track. The drums on this track sound a little bit heavier, but I think that just gives the guitars a little bit more room. It pushes them a little bit more forward, giving them more space to breathe, giving them more space to exist, allowing the guitars to become a little bit more of the focus of the track. And then you're going to see all of the dynamic movements within that guitar sound. Like I said, creating a track that's very guitar oriented, very guitar focused, and I really enjoyed that about this song. Definitely having a little bit more of a hardcore style with some killer bass throughout, vocals that match both of those vibes, both of those intensities. But still, I felt like this is definitely one of those that the guitars shine from beginning to end, and they are where the main spotlight resides. This is it, Mugshot with All the Devils Are Here, out June 20th on Pure Noise Records. Hit me up in the comment section, let me know your thoughts. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.